Hello everyone, I'm Hamid and I came back with a second part of the chapter 5 from the book Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. If you remember, in the first part of the chapter 5 we talked about changes. The changes that happen in an instant or can change happen in an instant. We said that most people, they don't agree with us or they don't agree with Tony Robbins because they believe that, or because of the assumption that they have, they think that every important change that happens in your life, it takes long time. And the second part was about a set of belief that those people they have, because they believe that, these changes, they take longer than we think. And because of the culture that we live in, it's really hard for us to change our belief about this stuff that, we can change an instant. So the things that we need to realize that any changes that happen in our life, we make a change at the moment, right away. And instead we need to change our belief actually. The first belief that we want to keep for ourselves, if you remember in the last chapter, we talked about the idea that we are able to have some belief or keep some beliefs for ourselves, and we can just get rid of some beliefs. Two beliefs that we want to have for these changes, a change at an instant. First, we want to say, okay, I can change now. Right now, I'm done. I want to change right now. And the second belief is that we are responsible for our change, not anyone else, not our life coach, not our counselor. That's great that I have life coach. That's great that I have expert helping me. But at the end, you're the person that are responsible for this change. By having these two beliefs, you can start to have a change. But the change that we want is not a change that happening in the short term. We want to have a long-term change. We want to have a change that lasts long. And how we can do that, if you link a pain and pleasure to our new behavior by conditioning our nervous system. What does it mean? This is the part that we're going to talk about that. So if you remember, we talk about that what type of change we want our life. People, what type of change people they want to experience in their life. The first one was that we want to change how we feel about things that happen in our life, about the tragedy that happened in our life, about those past experiences or those people that they hurt us in our life. And the second, about our behaviors. There are behaviors that we want to change them, we want to get rid of them, and we want to have a new one. The first part that we mentioned, that we need to change our sensation. We need to, the way that we link our sensation to that events, we need to change that one. And the second is about our behaviors, the behavior of addiction. Because addiction is just a set of behaviors that we do routinely or every day. And by just changing those behaviors, we can change that addiction. And here we mentioned that again, we need to link pain and pleasure to those old and new behaviors, and how we can have it in the long term by conditioning our nervous system. So I mentioned about conditioning our nervous system 2 times. And what does it mean? So the idea about the conditioning our nervous system come from this idea that if you want to go to a gym, and if you decide to get in a shape or in a shape that you have desire about that, you need to do exercise in the long term. You need to do it consistently. You cannot just go to gym one day and say, okay, I change right now and this is the change that I want. It's not going to happen. So about emotions and behaviors are the same. Emotions and our behaviors are like our body. They need a consistent exercise. And this part, we want to start about how brain works to continue on about the changes that we can do in our life. How brain works, or how much we know about our brain. So these are the questions that any people want to ask about themselves and about, okay, how much I know about my brain, how much I am aware of my brain ability. So if you go to some articles and some facts about the brain, the first thing that is a big fact is that we have 28 billion neurons. Neurons are cells, or like our small unit of, say, a brain. Means that if a brain want to just do our command, or just want to do his routine works, he needs these neurons. He needs oxygen, he needs glucose, and just needs to have this to use our neurons, which is like a long strand things that just coming from this example that I have here. Let's just go with the demonstration. I hope that I'm sure that you're gonna laugh about my demonstration, but this is what I could do. So imagine this is our brain, and this is our hand, and this is fire. How brain works, how brain memorize something, or how this neuro association that Tony Robbins mentioned in his book about the conditioning our nervous system is going to work. So he mentioned about the conditioning our nervous system in a step-by-step process that he's going to explain more on the chapter 6. And besides conditioning our nervous system, he mentioned about neuro associations. He said that the behaviors are rooted in our nervous system, and any behavior that we have is a physiological process that's happening inside of us by the help of these neurons in our brain and in our body. So let's talk about this example that I have here, just an example. So the first, how we can learn something, how we can realize, how we can create a neuro associations. Right here, I just demonstrate a brain, a hand, and a fire. So for the first time something happened to you. For the first time you just get your hand close to the fire and you're gonna sense the heat. And this, what's gonna happen, so neurons from here just gonna get this message from this stimulus, which is this time is fire, with the help of electrochemical impulse. They're just gonna transfer this message to the brain and then get back to the brain, they get back to the hands. So we're just gonna remove our hand or just like take our hand away from the fire. And what happened here? So when these things happen, this sensation that happened right now, this process that happened for us, that we just put our hand close to the fire and we sense the fire and sense the heat, we just take our hand away. So what happened is that the brain feel the pain. So when the brain feel the pain, the first thing that he's gonna do is just just try to search the cause. What was the cause? And the cause here was the fire. So he's just gonna record like a recorder. He's just gonna record this event. Okay, every time that if I put my finger close to the fire, I'm gonna sense heat and it's not good. So I'm just gonna record it, make sure next time it's not gonna happen. This is how we learn things. For example, you're just gonna fall down and you're gonna feel pain in your legs and you realize that, okay, falling down is painful, and your brain, the same story, just like goes from your legs to just your brain and then get back. All these neurons just gonna transfer or convey this message from here to here in like milliseconds to just tell us, okay, this is dangerous, this is pain, and this is pleasure. So this is how this phenomenon of the behavior works. This is how a behavior shape. So imagine, let's talk about the other part. Let's talk about the pleasure. So you start to use a drug. So the first thing that happened, our brain gonna feel this pleasure. And what's gonna happen when brain feels pleasure or pain, especially in a significant amount? Brain just gonna first gonna search for the cause and then try to record it. And when you record, these neurons, this pathway, these neural connections that we see that started from here to get back and then just get back from here to here, this neural pathway just gonna be remembered. And every time that we repeat that behaviors with repetition, these neurons, they get stronger, they just get thicker, and they just continue on that. So every time that you use drug or like cigarettes or like less marijuana, like alcohol or anything, every time this pathway just gonna be triggered and come back, triggered and come back. So if you realize that first it was just like a small dot, but right now you see as like a kind of a strong and thicker way. So this means that every time that you indulge in a pattern of behaviors, you're gonna create a thicker pathway, neural pathway for yourself. This is how addiction works. This is how addiction happens in us. So that's the reason that sometimes we just kind of we come to the point that we don't enjoy from smoking, but we have this compulsion that we want to do it. This is not because, I mean, the pleasure, you don't get pleasure anymore. It's just because, I mean, you just created this pathway, your brain wired to this behavior, and then that's the reason that every time the brain wants another time, because it just want to keep this thick, it just want to keep this one and maintain this neural pathway to make it thicker and thicker. So this is the basis of, the basic of the behavior, how behavior rooted in us. So it means that first we're gonna experience something unknown. For example, for this one was fire, for the other one was like a pleasure, like a drug or something. So pain and pleasure, we're gonna just have this experience. The senses just gonna send these messages from neurons, goes down and come back in the milliseconds, and then a behavior gonna get shaped. So the behavior of the smoking and the behavior of using alcohol, all is just coming from the same basic, that your brain gonna sense pleasure and then just try to find the cause and record it in your brain. And when it feels this pleasure, brain wants it another time, and this dot just gonna change to a thick, like a highway things. It's just like a highway or trail that they just want to happen again and happen again. And brains doesn't care about anything else. They just want this pleasure, because now he got the pleasure, so he just want to get pleasure more and more. So this is how a behavior shaped in us. So the way that we want to change, we want to say, okay, we want to link pain and pleasure to our old and new behavior by conditioning our nervous system. This is the part that we want to explain more. Okay, so we realize that, okay, this is the neural connection that's happening on us, and at the same time he calls, Tony Robbins calls it neuro associations or neural connections that happen, start from here to goes here. It could, the stimulus could be fire, stimulus could be drug, stimulus could be anything about the external world. And how we can just like condition our neural system, how we can change our condition our nervous system. So there's a how that which I'm going to explain in the other part. Okay, so the question is that how brain makes a neural association. So anytime that we experience a significant amount of pleasure and pain, we say that our brain search for the cause and then record it and then ask you again by just thickening the pathway, neural pathway that coming from your brain to that stimulus, to the drug or to the alcohol or anything. And it's the same story about the pain, but in the pain you're just gonna try to avoid. So the neural pathway is not gonna get thicker. So how brain search for the cause, every time that brain try to feel pleasure or pain, a significant amount of pleasure or pain, the brain try to search for cause. And he used three criteria to find the cause, to record it, to just ask more. So the first criteria is that, brain looks for something that is unique. Means that when you get something unusual feelings, means that could be the reason that you have that experience. So that could be one part criteria for the cause. Okay, this cause is unique, means that when you smoke something and you get pleasure, okay, your brain said, okay, for example, all these behaviors that you did, nothing happened to you, and then when you smoke that one, you just get this pleasure. So one criteria is about the uniqueness. That pattern of behavior must be unique. That cause must be unique. The second one is that it must happen at the same time. Like at the same time that you gain the pleasure or you just gain the pain, that cause happening at the same time. So brain feels that, okay, that moment that I felt pain or felt pleasure, that cause happened too. So this is another criteria. So brain use it to just accept this cause as a cause of pain or pleasure. And this third one, imagine an element has the first requirement, means that it's unique, and the second has at the same time you feel pleasure or pain, or just a moment after that you get this cause or happening at the same time. So you're just going to put, okay, if there's a consistency that it's happening every time. So with the help of these three, uniqueness and at the same simultaneously consistency, our brain decides that this is the cause of the pain and pleasure, and just going to create a bond or create a neural connection or neural associations. But there's something that we need to realize, that these criteria could be imprecise. It means that sometimes they just may fail us, or maybe we just misinterpret them in a way that the cause is something else, but we think that that's the cause, which we call false neural associations. Tony Robbins has an example of that one. The example he mentioned in the book was about the artist. It's a true story about the artist that was very successful, was very passionate about her job and about the painting, but at the same time, for 12 years he couldn't start a relationship with any man. Every time that he started a relationship, he ended up with pain and with the breakup and that story. So he realized that every time this person that end up the relationship or break up with the person, her brain gonna feel lots of pain, a significant amount of pain, because breakup is not an easy process for some people, or for lots of people it's really painful. So when she feels pain, so what's happening on the brain? So brain's gonna sense lots of like a significant amount of pain right now. So what brain gonna do? Search for the cause. So try to put everything next to each other to find out, okay, what was the reason? What was the cause of this pain? So the brain just gonna start with reviewing the memories that happened before this person, and each time that this person tried to review everything, she realized that the relationship had passion. She had a very passionate relationship with that person. So she said, okay, the reason, this relationship that I had with that person was unique because it was very passionate. So the first thing that the brain tried to put, she said, okay, passion as the first cause of that one. Again, she realized that before the end of the relationship they both had lots of passion. Again, she put passion as a culprit. So you know what? Because the relationship was passionate. Instead of thinking about the passion as a beautiful part of the relationship, she put it as a uniqueness, as a cause of pain. They said, okay, because this relationship was passionate, because I had passion and she had passion, or he had passion, so I had these problems, or I had this pain. And third, and she's going, okay, any relationship that happens, she's just going to put all three together, okay, because these three criteria, they all show me the passion as a culprit. So her brain decides to avoid passion. Every time that she feels a passionate relationship or a passionate person, she just tries to avoid at any all cost. And this one can affect her area of work too, because she realized that, okay, passion was the source of all her pain, because it was unique, because it was happening at the same time that she felt pain, because it happened before just she felt pain, and also because it was consistent in most of relationships. She had this passion. She just decided to have passion as a culprit and decided to just avoid passion in any part of her life, in her relationship and in her even in her work. So that's the reason we call this false neuro associations. In this situation, when you have a false neuro associations, you just misinterpret information, and then you just kind of close off your other possibilities and other solutions. So this is one thing that we need to realize, that false neuro associations could be very painful for us, and it could be very complex story for us. And we need to realize that every time we need to be very objective about things that happen in our life. And the second one is about the mixed neuro associations. What does it mean by mixed neuro associations? It means that, for example, there is an element, there is a cause, and here I put money. Actually, Tony Robbins mentioned about the money. So when we talk about the money, let's say that, okay, what's your positive and negative impression of the money? So he asked in one seminar, he asked from people that, okay, what's your just write down a list of positive impression of the money, and at the same time write down the negative impression of the money. So why you think that money is good and why you think that money is bad. So they started, okay, if I have money, it means that I have more freedom, I can do lots of contribution, I can help my family, I can travel, I can just help lots of people. So these are like a good part of the positive part of the money. So the positive impression of the money for these people. But at the same time, people realize that, okay, if I have lots of money, means that I need to pay lots of taxes. If I have lots of money, people think that I'm not a good person. Or the other thing, that if I have lots of money means I have less of a stress, I might not sleep overnight. And if I have lots of money means that I'm not going to be a spiritual person. So if you realize that there was like a balance, like I was, okay, there's some positive part and negative part, and then this, which we call mixed neuro associations, going to confuse people about the money. That, okay, is money really good or is it bad? So when you have this list on both sides, if you're not 100% sure that, okay, the money is really good for you or is really bad for you, you just like, so your brain just doesn't get it. Your brain gonna get confused that, okay, your money is good for you or money is bad. Do you want money in your life or you don't want money? So these are two examples of the neuro associations, and this is the whole story about how brain makes a neuro associations. So in next chapter, we want to talk about this idea of how we condition our nervous system, or the process that he mentioned in his book about NAC or neuro associations. I forget the last word. Conditioning, neuro association conditioning, which we're going to talk about in the last chapter. So overall, this is what we have from second part of the chapter 5. I hope that you like it. It had some biology, and I tried to explain what I learned. I hope that you liked it, and I recommend you to read the book also to just get more information about that. And best of luck for you and for your love family, and have a good day. Bye.